Alright, looks like the stream has started. Hey everyone. Alright, so, a lot's happened to the project, and just in advance, just in case you kind of notice, apologize for maybe a slightly somber disposition. Someone who was dear to me a while back has recently passed away, but uh, yesterday morning, I think. But anyway, with that said, uh, you know, I'll be all right for the stream. uh, so with that said, I got a lot of stuff done for the abilities. I got a lot of things in place here. Uh, so there are a number of new abilities in the game, and just for and this is pretty much the biggest change to the game in a while. So I'm going to go over each of the abilities, what they do, kind of describe how I think they're going to change the game, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm doing next and things like that. I want to keep this stream a little bit more compact because I noticed that a lot of my streams have been kind of just all over the place, and having people in Discord and stuff like that, which is fun. But probably don't make for very entertaining, consumable content after the fact. With that said, my goal is to have a really good build of the game and release it in sort of its demo form on Steemit on Friday. And in that time, I will have more functionality in place for things like the minimap. And the abilities as well. So the auto map improvements will be pretty straightforward. Power nodes, which are the battle cubes, will be a priority as well. And I'm going to try and get as many icons in as I possibly can. So the game will be looking pretty good. You won't see any more of these icons. Alright, so let me get into the abilities. Now, there are two abilities on this list that are currently not in a functional state at the moment. And I might actually script one of them while I'm streaming so that you can kind of see. Now, I'm approaching the scripting of the abilities in a different way. So normally, I try to do everything in very compartmentalized and like have every ability just be like something that I can just punch in on a data table or something like that. But I actually think that one of the things I want to do is kind of not go that route with the abilities, so that they all have their own quirks and nuances and differences in how they're implemented, which isn't always a wise idea, but there's not a whole lot of scripting that goes into these things, and they're actually very easy to make overall. Just letting everybody know the stream is up on Discord. So anyway, with that said, hopefully the chat isn't fucked up. Let me refresh the chat just in case. Yeah, looks like there's one person watching now, which is probably me. Okay. So, I'm gonna go over the current abilities that I have right now, which you'll notice that I've also kind of redone the backpack so that it's a little bit different. You actually see a little bit more. You no longer drop blueprints when you die. That's really the ammo and blueprints are really the only two exceptions. In fact, I might actually put blueprints by the ammo and kind of like highlight them differently or something. But okay, so one of the main types of abilities, you have booster abilities, and then you have special abilities. Now, special abilities are the real big stuff, the the big heavy hitting, like crazy, like orbital strikes and like massive healing wave type things, or just about anything. I actually have an idea for an ability where you switch places with a monster, and then the monster that you switched with is now sitting where you were before, and he basically becomes a bomb that explodes. It's really crazy shit. And that's the kind of stuff that goes in specials. So like what I already have right now is like time lapse and orbital strike. Orbital strike actually, if you're outside, so it like puts down a marker on the ground in front of you wherever you're aiming, and it constantly draws a trace down from the sky. And if the trace doesn't hit anything except for the floor, like if the trace is actually able to hit the ground or whatever the marker is, then that means it has a clear line of sight from above. And when you use the ability, which is fairly expensive if you look at it, it costs 192 action points to cast it. It will call down a hellfire of a bunch of fucking rockets, just boom, 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 like that, right? So it's a really powerful ability. Time lapse will actually like slows down time and stuff like that. So the special abilities are marked right now. They'll have every ability will have its own, like, will be marked in like 2 different kinds of icons, and then you'll have to like look at the name. But yeah, so right now it just looks like a sniper bullet or whatever. I'll have to change. I need new icons for these. So you can tell, like, okay, these ones are the booster abilities, and these ones are the special abilities. Now you see like Healing Wave, a restorative area of effect that lasts for a short time. Healing Wave right now is the only the only special ability that I have scripted at the moment. But then I have a number of other types of abilities here that I can kind of show off. Now let me show off Healing Wave first, because I was just describing what happens when you with special abilities. I was just describing special abilities. Blah. Don't worry, one of these days I'll learn how to talk. So let's see. Let me pop it right here. So if I press Q, now special abilities are a little bit more nuanced or a little bit more like what you would consider like an ultimate in an Overwatch or something, but it's not quite. So you notice I dropped this thing down, right? Now everything that's in this radius, including enemies, is now being healed. It has about 8 charges, I think, before it stops. And it continues to go through. I think it's actually 10. And then it has a fairly long cooldown. It's like 30-second cooldown. Actually, let me take a look. You have, yes, 30 seconds. So the cooldown on it is 30 seconds. But then you'll notice that there are other abilities, like if you look at a lot of the booster abilities, their cooldowns are like 1 second, right? Which I should probably do something to make those look a little bit cooler, because the 1 second cooldown is like, it should probably just say something like a toggle, or I don't know. I had it where if it has like 0 seconds cooldown, then that makes it so like if you're talking to me on chat, I can't see it. Let's see. Hold on a second. I'm so paranoid at chat now because I don't like it when people don't respond to chat. Anyway. Anyway. So, like these abilities with 1 second cooldown. So Berserker's Rage regenerates health and increases attack power. So the first wave of just regular booster abilities are actually going to be abilities that regenerate health and do various different things. So one of them increases your attack power. So if I switch to something like the auto pistol, where I can show it without having to worry too much about killing the target too quickly. Okay, so you'll notice, alright, so when I pop the ability, you notice that it's continuously going. And if I don't have anything muted, you can actually hear the sound of the character breathing and the heartbeat. And it's a constant thing. So with this with certain booster abilities, you literally hold the button down and it toggles it on or off. So when booster abilities are on your shift key, so you might notice that, oh, that's kind of like sprinting, right? Well, runner's high is sprinting, basically. It regenerates health and increases movement speed. So there's a list of abilities right now that like do things like increase your attack power, but they also all heal you. So let me show you what Berserker's Rage is like when when I activate it. So okay, so it's 21 damage when I shoot. Right now it's activated. It's 26 per shot now. So that's a pretty significant boost in overall damage when you have it activated. Not only that, but when it's activated, you'll notice that I'm healing as well. So if I do take damage for whatever reason, oh, what are these errors? That's a little weird. Oh, probably because I started the game again and it like cleared the thing. I'll find out what it was a little bit later. So get rid of these for now. Alright, so let's see. Oops. So that's Berserker's Rage. Now let's take a look at Eagle Eye. Regenerates health, increases accuracy. Alright, so one of the ways that you can see if it's increasing accuracy is you watch my crosshair. Now this pairs better with certain guns. Some guns it's kind of useless, but it's really awesome for something like the LMG, which is a gun that starts off accurate, but when you fire it, you'll notice that the crosshair gets tighter and tighter. Some guns get more accurate as you're shooting them. So something like the LMG starts off kind of at a disadvantage because it's really inaccurate until you've fired it for a little while. Well, if I activate my Eagle Eye booster, you'll notice that the crosshair, now watch those dots. See how it already tightens up? Now this affects everything. This could be a shotgun. I just tightened the spread of my shotgun. Right? Now, I mean, you could do the same thing basically by equipping marksman body armor or something like that. And that also increases your accuracy by a little bit. It's kind of hard to tell because, yeah, it's very slight because it's only one piece of armor, but raises accuracy by 10. So it's real easy to see when you're using a marksman thing, or you're using Eagle Eye, because you can literally just watch it shrink in front of you. But with that said, you have Runner's High. Now, if you look down here on this side of the screen, you'll see my, you know, the movement speed. Well, right now my max movement speed is 728. So when I'm moving around, if you look there, it's at 728. Now, if I hit Runner's High, if I just hold down Shift and use Runner's High, I get, it bumps up to 800, 880. It's a pretty noticeable difference when you're actually moving. Actually, probably could be buffed a little bit. Honestly, let's see. And of course, that also heals you as well while the effect is active. Now, I do plan to have booster effects that don't heal you. And there actually can be fully offensive or fully defensive booster effects. In fact, between the two slots, I actually want to have like different combinations that you can do where your healing ability might actually be in your special slot and your booster ability might be just like something that vastly increases your attack power, but you know, it doesn't consume, but it, yeah, it just vastly increases your attack power. I don't know why I don't know what I was trying to add to that sentence. So anyway, with that said, you'll actually have a chance to do that kind of stuff. So like, Healing Wave is a really crazy heal It's probably the most powerful and efficient heal in the game, per capita of just overall output. But with that said, there's the disadvantage of you have to be in this area of effect to receive the effect of the heal. And if you're not careful and enemies get into the effect, they get healed as well. Now, one of the things that's really interesting about the heal effect now is that you may actually see enemies using these abilities. So there's a point in time where I may actually just have enemies utilizing these types of attacks or heals. So you might see an enemy pop a fucking healing wave, and you can run into the fucking healing wave, try to kill him, and you can get the benefits of his healing wave. So there's, I actually think that there'll probably be a lot of stuff like that, and you might actually encounter situations. I think now that I'm going in this direction with the abilities, that you might have enemies that you have to kill first because they regenerate or buff everybody around them and stuff like that. So that's an aspect that never even existed in Doom, really, outside of maybe the Archvile being a resurrector or God knows what else. But yeah, so that makes things a lot different. The battlefield can change pretty quickly depending on what kinds of monsters and abilities are being activated at the time. So Orbital Strike and Time Lapse are the two I don't have, and I got to show these other ones here too as well. So Regeneration is sort of your bread and butter type heal. Regeneration. Yeah, I have Regeneration equipped right now, actually, just to avoid any confusion. So as a booster ability, Regeneration, health regenerates for a limited time, has a cooldown of 20 seconds, an AP cost of 192 action points. That's only because I'm level 3. It's a little bit more efficient than that, but it's a level 1. Yeah, and these also are just like all the other gear in the game. You can get a level fucking, I can get a level 5 regeneration, and as soon as I hit level 5, it'll be like at full effect, and it's like really, really good for me. But like a level 1 regeneration will be kind of shitty, and I'll have to like compare it to other ones, and I'll be able to take it to the fabricator to upgrade it, and all that same stuff like still applies to all of the abilities. So the abilities are really just like an extension of all the systems that are already currently in place. So this is a bread and butter, just self-heal, but this one's a little different because it's considered a mega health. And if you notice that, what mega health means is that it heals above 100%. It's the only heal in the game right now that will actually do that. Not even Healing Wave will heal you above 100%. So if you watch my health, you see the blue bar and my health total, right? So 490 is my max health, but the regeneration heals me above that. The drawbacks with the regeneration is that it's got a cooldown. It's actually probably a really effective heal. Like, you probably can't do too much. And on that note, I also forgot to mention the action points don't regenerate automatically. You have to kill stuff in order for your action points to regenerate. And with that kind of a situation, what you have to do is the only way you'll be able to actually like actively regain your action points is by killing lots of enemies. You'll be able to like pop another heal or maybe use an orbital strike if you have to. And in some cases, I can actually see it being kind of like a cost-effective thing to orbital strike like 10 enemies so that you can get all of your action points back. But that kind of stuff may or may not happen. It's definitely an element that's in place. So that's regeneration. Now let me show. I showed Berserker's Range. I showed Runner's High. Here's Stone Skin. Now Stone Skin is regenerates health and armor, increases defense, and slows movement. Now you'll notice though that the AP cost on its cooldown is 1, but its AP cost is twice as much as the other abilities. That's mainly because this ability is a little bit better than the others. in terms of like everything that it provides at the same exact time. And you'll notice that when I use it, I have this like I'm moving slower. My movement speed is greatly reduced, and I have self-repair, defender's regen, bulwark stance, and heavy. Bulwark stance increases your defense by a lot. So increases, and it regenerates your armor and your health at the same time. The only drawback is that it makes one negative effect where it slows your movement. So there are actually negative effects in the game. There will be enemies that can poison you. It won't be as often, but there are things like, there are like different types of damage or negative effects that you can receive. And in those cases, that's where we go into Biotic Cleanse. Now, restores health, cleanses one negative status effect. So every time you use it, it's got a 5-second cooldown, so you can use it fairly quickly. And it regenerates health in a single burst. Ooh. He dropped his minigun. Okay, so, which is actually something I gotta do. I gotta like put smoke, make smoke come out of this damn thing or something when he dies. But so when I use Biotic Cleanse, if I have a negative status effect, it removes one effect, and you can kind of spam it. It's not very efficient. It's not very efficient. It's fairly expensive. But in a scenario where you're dealing with enemies that are putting like a nasty effect on you constantly, something like Biotic Cleanse is probably going to be really, really necessary. So if down the road I have like fucking Spider Pit where you're getting constantly poisoned or something like that, or enemies that are, you know, using a slow debuff on you all the time, or rooting you in place or something like that, anything that's considered like a status effect like that, having something like Biotic Cleanse is probably is going to be invaluable. So anytime you have a negative effect on you, not only are you healing yourself for a little bit, but you also instantly remove the negative effect, one negative effect that might be on you. I don't know if I want to see that kind of stuff happening a whole lot, because it's a first-person shooter. That stuff is usually kind of annoying, but it's not out of the question that you'll probably be encountering stuff like that, because one of the things that I'm going to be doing with this game is constantly adding stuff. So you may actually have areas in the game where you just have to get used to the fact that there's an enemy that can fucking use a blow dart on you and slows you down or some shit like that, or puts down an area of effects like a boss fight that slows you down. Having something like Biotic Cleanse is probably invaluable. I think I already showed Stone Skin, but the heavy can actually be cleansed, but you'd have to like do something to get that cleansed, because you can't have Biotic Cleanse. I have to make it so that the status effects, up here are like the negative ones appear red or something like that, so you can tell. Oh, alright, anytime you see a red effect in the top left of the screen, then you know you can cleanse it. So with that said, alright, so with that said, let me check Discord. I think that pretty much actually covers everything. It's like a 23 minutes. Oh, I'll probably step through and actually implement one of these. I don't know, maybe actually I kind of probably need to be chilling off stream today, because it's a little, things are a little raw at the moment because of the, I don't know, sometimes I'll kind of remember something and it'll kind of make me really sad. So I'm probably going to get off of the stream for now. I need to keep these streams a little bit shorter anyway, and I also want to try and do more like shorter but more abundant content, so like I just kind of go over things. 24 minutes is a pretty long time, but with that said, I think I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna end this one now, unless am I forgetting anything? Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, let me talk just a moment about how I want to go about the mini map thing. I have a technique now in mind where I can make the mini maps a lot better. So one of the things that I'm kind of planning on doing with the mini map. So you notice that if you press the map right now, the mini map needs to be updated. I plan to have it updated by Friday and stuff. But one of the things I want to do is I want to make it so that not only is it updated, but places that you haven't, like any of these points that haven't been hit yet, like you haven't gone to yet, will have a little yellow exclamation points on them, and maybe they won't say what they are. And then once you have the fast travel, once you have the tag that you visited, that location, then it will be like it'll say what it is, and instead of battle cube, it'll be like power cube. So those will all be marked, and what you'll do is when you enter a new level, you'll see this big map, and then there'll be like little yellow exclamation points floating over top of various different locations, and it won't really say what those are until you explore them. Also, I have a much better technique now for updating the minimap, better than what I was doing before. It took me a little bit to figure it out, but right now I have like the minimap is basically floating underneath, and all I do is I select one, and then I select all objects of the same material, right? So what is it, select, and yeah, same material. Makes it really easy for me to grab this. Well, then you can just right click, and then you can shit, where's the option? You can basically convert actors to static mesh, and then once you do that, it's really easy to just point a blueprint to the static mesh, which is the auto map thingy, and now I have something that's all set up. Now, one of the problems with this is that I have to reorient it within the blueprint in order to make sure that it lines up correctly with the actual world space, because all of the nodes that are denoted as sort of like points of interest are using virtual space, just simulated virtual space within a virtual space. So I have to make sure that everything's lined up correctly. And what I had to do before, in order to make sure that they were all lined up correctly, was I had to kind of just eyeball it and move it a little bit and test it and see if everything was okay. And it was never really quite there. So I actually know a much better way to do it now, and that is simply take like 4 cubes on the map. So like place the mini map back so that it's in the correct orientation compared to the rest of the world, to the world space itself, and then take 4 cubes and place them all evenly away from the 0 in every axis, and make sure that they all have the same material, so that when I make the mesh, it really quickly just grabs it and sets it up. Once that happens, what I can do then is I can now move the entire mesh downward below the level again, so that it's easy for me to work on it, and then I can do whatever I need to make it look as good as possible. And when I export it, its origin will be in the correct place, because it's simulated world space. It will match up correctly with the simulated world space once exported, because that's how it's working. It's just finding the center of the mesh. If I make it so that the center of the mesh is always in the correct spot, because I put things on the outer bounds, then I don't have to worry about having to like do that really painful and slow process of eyeballing it. So that's pretty much what I have in mind for the minimap. So with that said, that's pretty much everything right there. I'll try to be a little bit more consistent, but it's the whole moving thing is really distracting. and I've just been working so hard on the game that it's been hard for me to do anything as far as like social media. Trying to think if there's anything else that I can go over real quick to explain where things are going next. I'm not really going to update the damage indicators anymore. They're already in. General tasks, particle effects. I might add some more particle effects for like when the player levels up. You might actually see like a poof, or something like that. Some kind of a effect. I went and I bought a thing from the marketplace for what's called RPG effects, and it's a lot of really neat little effects that are going to be really great for what I need in the game, and I'm already using them to pretty good effect. That's it. The power nodes, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with them yet. They need to look like they need to look like actual power nodes, or they need to be like something, not a number. You know what I mean? And once completed, that's one of the interesting things about it, is there'll be a little yellow exclamation point over top of it. Once it's completed, the exclamation point will disappear. Really simple stuff. Here's the map markers actually. I could make a graphic for the map markers so that they just look like the exclamation point. That would actually make things a little easier. Then you have these points of interest. There it is, based on progress tags on the player, and there we go. So yeah, this Friday I want the build. I'm gonna end the stream now. This one was a lot more to the point, I guess. I'm bad at ending this stuff, so I'm just gonna go ahead and end it.